Welcome to Just Relationships, the show that offers you concrete ways to make your relationships better. Whether it's your boss, your spouse, your children, or your friends, the quality of your relationships in life directly affects how you feel about yourself and the success you achieve. Your host, Dr. Duffy Spencer, a psychotherapist, telecoach, author, and seminar leader, will interview top experts to help you learn to manage this essential part of your life. And now, here's your host, Dr. Duffy Spencer.
Greetings to you. Well, if you had tuned in last week, then you know that this is part 2 of my interview with Nancy Allen, and her book is entitled From Bud to Blossom, Our Lesbian Journeys. And Nancy Allen is 82 years old, and after having had her first lesbian relationship at 40, it took her 32 years to quote unquote come out. So at the age of 72, she publicly said, yes, I choose a lesbian lifestyle. And that's the way it is. And to go from a commitment ceremony in 2014, when gay marriage was still illegal, to later on, a few years later, choosing to have a regular marriage where you had all kinds of rights, the same marital rights that heterosexual people do, where they're protected financially and socially and all of that. And so in last week's show, we talked about several factors. Just to regroup the idea of the statistics, there are many more single women in later years than single men. That's number one. Number two, the tendency for men to marry younger women. That also increases that there are many more widows than widowers. And the pool of eligibility for romantic relationships for older women is a lot smaller, a lot smaller. So the idea that it is the person and not the penis, and that human beings form attachments, and ideally we want to form healthy love attachments, and it's all about love. It's all about love. So the idea of the social stigma has decreased, although we recognize we're living in a polarized country, and that the idea of sexual behavior, that women can find same-sex relationships more satisfying if there is if a man has the emphasis on mostly coital sex, slam bang, thank you, ma'am, with minimal foreplay. And then we made mention that Freud talked about 2 different kinds of orgasms, clitoral and vaginal. With clitoral, he declaring was immature, and only a mature woman would really respect and be gratified by a penis. And as I mentioned, that the clitoris is actually the executive of orgasm, while the contractions are in the vagina. It starts with the clitoris. So we're looking at that, and then we're looking at the idea of women knowing each other better, living more in harmony than heterosexual people can in certain ways. You know, I'm thinking about John Gray, who I also had the pleasure of interviewing on WHPC. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus, and the popularity of his thesis, which I happen to agree with him. He's very correct. And also I just want to make mention, Nancy Allen, that women are considered the architects of relationship, that women do relationship better than men typically, that women are much more relational. Males have been taught to go prove themselves in the world, to accomplish in a kind of a doing mode rather than a being mode. So tell us your take on this.
Well, hi, it's great to be back again after this full week of just waiting for this opportunity. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yes, I think that women are more relational. Men are more into, well, in the past, it was into career and accomplishment, and that's why it seems to be there's more affairs with men, although women do have affairs, but more men because of the urge, kind of stronger testosterone urge of men that gets them into trouble, whereas women are more relational. But there's problems, as you said, it's the person. Because there was a lot of women that I kind of dated or thought about and thought, no way, would I want to be in that relationship? Because women are very emotional. The one woman I dated for a while, she was leaving a past relationship and she was stealing stuff out of the house. And I'm going, okay, you're done. We're done. So, I mean, it's not that we can't say, oh, yes, women are more relational and it'll all be wonderful if you hook up with a woman, because that's not true, not necessarily true, because it's the person and not just because they're a woman. So
yes, very, very, very important point. We can't assume that just because we're women, we understand each other and have all this empathy and compassion for each other.
Right.
Absolutely.
And I wanted to tell you that I became the official lesbian at age 72. And I had Kelly, my partner, we joked around that she gave me lesbian lessons, not necessarily only about sex, but just what's politically correct and gay pride and, not coming out to people. I was so thrilled about becoming a lesbian. So I'm still working, because you can see I'm kind of young-ish from my age. So I was still working. So I'm telling everybody in corporate America, people that I got to know, I didn't make public. When I was doing workshops, I didn't make it that public. But anyway, Kelly had said, you need to be a little cooler about who you're coming out to, because not all people are as understanding as you want them to be. So I got to this one woman who said, oh my goodness, I'll pray for you, you poor thing. So I thought, oh, well, that's what Kelly means. So I tried to be a little bit cooler about who I told. But there's also, while we're on the subject, something I wanted to talk about. It's regarding sex, and this is something that Kelly taught me in our lesbian lessons. There's something that's called lesbian bed death. And this is many lesbians, after the initial connection that they make, they partner up, they're together for years, and they don't have sex anymore. And Kelly explains that this is not scientific, but this is Kelly's explanation, which makes total sense, that men have a lot more testosterone. So gay men take sex very seriously, and they don't ever give up on sex. Whereas women, they're more into the relationship, the hugging, kissing, harmony, just compassion for each other. And they don't necessarily, their testosterone is much lower. Let's say men have 10 units of testosterone. So you get two men together, that's a lot of testosterone. So you get a heterosexual couple together, you got, the 10 units of testosterone from the man and maybe 3 or 4 from the woman. So the man typically drives sex in a heterosexual relationship. Not always, but a lot of times. And then you get two women that have 3 units of testosterone. It's like, okay, this is pretty hopeless. So after a while, like we now have to make conscious effort of saying, okay, we're going to make love on Saturday at 2:00, or make appointments, which, you think is kind of defeats the purpose. But if you don't do that, months can pass.
Well, very good point. And we're looking at younger heterosexual couples also, especially with children. We have to make sex dates, right?
Right.
We have to make sex dates, or it's not going to happen.
Yeah, that's when it starts falling apart. When all those children come into your life, and you just no longer have the energy at the end of the day.
Yes, and in courtship, we have that erotic pharmacy inside of our bodies, and that's what makes the world go round. That is what propagates the species. And then later on, it's like been there, done that. And, when we had the whole Playboy philosophy movement really get started in the late 50s, early 60s, and we moved the whole concept of procreational sex to recreational sex.
Right.
And that was because of demographics as well as changes in philosophy, because we did prefer smaller families. We did have the advent of birth control, the pill in 1960. And so it was possible. It was possible to have recreational sex.
That's when it all started getting much looser because of the attitude. Plus, there were many books out. One book that I adhered to was Open Marriage.
Right.
And that's where you theoretically got consent from your partner that you were going to have an open marriage where you were going to openly pursue other sexual relationships. So some couples did that. We tried that in my second marriage, and it was kind of marginal. Anyway, he didn't have that much interest in sex, and I never left the house. It's like I didn't have opportunity. Anyway, that open marriage thing opened up a lot of people, which it doesn't really work, because when you have an affair, that affair is so powerful.
Right.
Because you don't have the children, you don't have the finances, you don't have the underwear, you just have each other, and it's so wonderful. You think if you marry this person, your life will be greater. Well, it won't, because you'll run into the same issues as you get into that marriage. So
exactly. And the O'Neills, who wrote Open Marriage, really only devoted one chapter to sex with other people. All of the rest was about open marriage, meaning communication. But of course, that was what everyone, that one chapter.
I remember that chapter.
Yeah, exactly. Remember that chapter. And the idea that why it didn't work was because of jealousies. Mm-hmm. Because most of us, want the one and only. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And, it's one thing to say it's okay theoretically, but the heart knows different.
Right.
The heart knows different.
It's really dicey. I watch a lot of Dateline.
Oh, yeah.
The husband did it, or the wife. Usually the husband or wife did it because of some gross indiscretion, money, sex, Anyway, it's just really interesting what people do when they're driven by their emotions.
So let's come back to lesbian bed death. I had never heard that term.
Okay.
And that older women are less sexual than older men, you're suggesting. I did understand that even though women have less testosterone, that proportionally they have more testosterone in their older years because they have less estrogen. But as I said, sex dates that I think everyone needs to cultivate. Mm-hmm. An ongoing sexual relationship, if that's what you had and that's what you want to maintain.
Well, you have to decide between the two of you if you want to do that. Because I know lesbian couples that say we're in bed death and we're very happy. We're just very happy being committed, hugging, holding, and that's the way it's going to be. We're not interested in that whole sexual thing anymore. So if that's what they come to, that's fine. But if they don't, they might want to schedule times and make it a little bit more appealing to be together, to have those intense feelings. Plus, I think with older women, at least with us, we're on bioidentical hormones. I think the hormones fade, and that you don't have that intensity anymore.
Right.
But the hormones help that a lot. I don't know how people have any sexual interest at my age without hormones, because it just isn't there. It starts going downhill after menopause. But as soon as I got on hormones, I started with regular hormones, and those were deemed to be bad. So then I got on bioidentical. So I've been on them for 1,000,000 years and have not had any problems whatsoever. And Kelly likes them not only for sex, but she thinks it's been great for her mental clarity. So I can attest to that since I've been on them for so long. I didn't get foggy.
Thank you for making mention of that, because HRT, hormone replacement therapy, is very possible, very doable. And as I talked about in last week's show, the fact that penile implant surgery has become much more commonplace. Men don't talk about it, but it's much more commonplace, and it's about a 6 weeks to 2 month recovery, and it is covered by insurance.
Tell us all exactly your understanding of what is an implant.
What it is that there is a reservoir of saline water that is placed in the scrotum, and that you pump the scrotum, and that creates the erection. So instead of blood creating the erection, it is water that creates the erection.
But they still have the feeling. They still have the
They still have the feeling.
Okay.
And it is enhanced by the ability now to penetrate.
Well, that sounds great.
It's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, I didn't really know about that.
Yes. So the idea of using HRT, and as you said, that we now have the bioidentical hormone therapy that is safer, better than the just introducing the hormones, and that as long as you are monitored by a doctor,
regularly. And it's sometimes tough to get a doctor that does hormone replacement, but you look it up on the internet and you can find them. It's expensive, but to us, it's worth it.
Yes. And I don't know what the stats are now on breast cancer, but it is, you have to decide for yourself, and with a good doctor, weighing out the pros and cons.
And we see him once every 6 months or so and get blood tests so that it's all balanced. Beautiful.
So making sex dates and taking HRT and anything else. Oh, the other point I wanted to make is that, as you said, Nancy Allen, it is only that the couple agrees on whether to have sex, not to have sex, the frequency of sex. That's the only thing that matters. It doesn't matter. There's no classified section. You're supposed to have sex this often.
Right.
It's the only thing that matters is what the couple agrees to, openly and honestly, what the couple agrees to.
Right.
And why not have these pleasurable, lovely, intense sexual feelings later on in life?
Yeah.
Keeps you vibrant. Yeah. Keeps you vibrant and having mental clarity, more youthful feeling, more youthful looking. So is there anything else that for yourself or what intrigued you about the women that you interviewed in your book, From Bud to Blossom, Our Lesbian Journeys by Nancy Allen?
And you can get it on paperback or Kindle through Amazon.
Amazon, yes.
Amazon.
You get it easily and anywhere. From Bud to Blossom, Nancy Allen. Yeah.
Yes. Well, as I said last week, I was going to title it Late in Life Lesbians, and then I found this wonderful couple who are in their 30s, and they at first had heterosexual relationships, and then found each other. And they decided, since they were young and always wanted a family, that they would each have a baby. And they each had a baby using the same sperm donor, frozen sperm. They never met this guy. 2 years apart. So now they have two little blonde boys that look identical. And one mothered one, and the other one 2 years later mothered the other one. And they have this great life with these two little kids. I see them on Facebook all the time. And these kids are growing up, and the one woman that wrote the chapter, you would never know she's lesbian. You know, you talk about lipstick lesbians, which are lesbians that look really super feminine. She is super, super feminine. She said all the guys are always saying, "And what does your husband do?" Because she's just so feminine. So you just can't tell anymore. So that's one fun story from the book. And you were talking last week about political lesbians, and I thought a little bit more about this. I do have a woman in the book who was very politically active in Cleveland, and she divorced her husband, and because she was so politically active, he was a lawyer, he had money, she didn't have money because she was doing her political active thing. He got the kids, and it wasn't because she was a lesbian, because she wasn't out as a lesbian at that time, but she became a lesbian politically because she so believed in the women's movement, and she's been a lesbian for 40 years with the same partner, and they don't have lesbian bed deaths. So, that's they've made that work for themselves. So, people get into it for different reasons. Sometimes people just bump into, or they have a friend and they didn't even think anything about, and then all of a sudden they look at each other in a certain way, and it's like, whoa, something more here than just a friendship. So,
yeah. And the term political lesbian doesn't necessarily mean that someone is politically active per se. It means that they have chosen not to be culture bound, that they choose, that they're not necessarily per se attracted to women initially, but they open up their thinking that they can allow to learn, but that you can pleasure a woman, and that it's a very viable alternative and could even become a prime choice. But it has to do with complete open choice and consciousness and inclusivity that we all, as I had mentioned last week, according to Kinsey's studies, that we all are inherently bisexual and we're all on a sexual continuum.
Right.
Yes. So she decided, she chose to be, she was politically active, and she does not suffer from lesbian bed death.
Right.
Yes.
She made it all work.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Yes.
And the young, I'm sorry, I just think it's so fascinating that the younger couple that use the same sperm donor so that their two children are half siblings, that is really phenomenal. Talk about it's all in the family.
Yeah,
right?
I know. They created their own little cute family out of that. Yeah, and more women are deciding in one way or another to have children, so it doesn't necessarily limit it. I have I have two grandchildren that are bisexual. Isn't that interesting? I told them when they were about 14. I told them about Kelly. And they said, no worries, Nanny. We have, in school, we have women, girls dating other girls and boys dating other boys. And so then as they age, they both are now bisexual. So one is now dating a man, and the other one has had several female relationships that have been, anyway. So that's been interesting to see how they grow up. And when I told my daughter and son that I was gay, they said, I was kind of hesitant about that. And they said, no big deal. We knew that you had lots of lesbian friends along the way, so not to worry. So
and to go back to, it's about the person and not the penis.
I want to tell you
that phrasing. Yeah.
Do I have time for one more story? Yes,
of course.
There's a Naomi that's in the book, one of the women in the book here. And Naomi was an acquaintance in the coaching, training, organizational development community here in Atlanta. And I would run into her and we'd be in meetings and things, and we became sort of friends, not super close, but she never dated. She never had marriage. And then I went to an event and she was at this event and there was lots of lesbians there. I said, oh, that's why Naomi doesn't have a marriage. She is gay. So I just assumed that for years and years and years. So then when Kelly and I got together, I met Naomi at an event. I said, oh, I wanted to tell you I'm now with Kelly, and I knew you'd be interested. She said, why would I be interested? I said, I assume that you're gay. She said, I'm not gay. I said, oh, okay. So out of that conversation, she began really exploring it. And she ended up now with a woman. So she wrote her chapter in here, and she mentions me at that conversation telling her that I was gay, just assuming that she was. Anyway, she had never had a relationship with a woman until this one that she's in with now, and had had very few relationships with men. So
yeah, and subconsciously she was attracted to lesbians and didn't own it.
Yeah, because she worked in corporate America. Both of us, you're working in corporate America. You just don't think about that or even want them to know.
Right,
She used her name's not really Naomi. She used a fictitious name because she didn't want anyone in Atlanta still to know. You know?
Right. And you opened the door for her by just saying,
sharing it. So
what? Maybe I thought so, and if so, so what? And she was taken aback.
Yeah.
Yes. So you said earlier, Nancy, that you've been thrilled with your life choice, your sexual choice, and tell us a little bit more about what it's like living a happy and thrilling life.
Well, it's just a joy every day where we don't have a lot of disagreements or fights. We talk. If something's bothering us, we talk about it, and most of the time we joke around a lot. We have in the last 2 years watched a lot of TV. In the last week we were talking about women in prison. We watched Wentworth and Orange is the New Black. Watched all the lesbian relationships emerge in the prison scene. So that's been kind of fun. But anyway, our relationship is just good. It's easy. We're both very easy to be with, and it's just a joy to wake up with her. We got a new puppy dog. We have a Shih Tzu who's he's 2 years old this month. So he's going from puppyhood into doghood, and he's 9 pounds. He's very cute and adorable. So he keeps us very amused, and we just have this great life. We're leaving. We're going on an adventure in June. Yeah. So good.
Wow. So you have your own little furry baby to complete the family.
Yep, we do.
And you two have a light relationship, and you can deal with conflict, and you can be communicative. Women do have, not only are they more relational, but they do have better, generally speaking, communication skills. So thank you so much, Nancy Allen.
You're very welcome.
It's a pleasure.
Been a pleasure. Yes.
Thank you so much. And Nancy Allen's book, AALLEN, From Bud to Blossom, Our Lesbian Journeys, is available pretty much anywhere and everywhere you want to find it. You can find it. And enjoy Nancy Allen.
Thank you.
And meanwhile, everyone, this is Dr. Duffy Spencer saying goodbye for now, and wishing you great relationships.